Welcome, everyone. We will just give people just a minute to go ahead and join. If you are here to learn about the comparison of Anaplan and IBM Planning Analytics, then you are in the right place. We have a couple rounds going on today, and I think you're going to find some of this information really enlightening and surprising, in a good, positive way. So just give everyone just a minute as they're starting to file in. For those of you that have not attended our webinars in the past, I'm Heather Cole with Lodestar Solutions. With me tonight is Mike Berdache, and we are going to be sharing with you a comparison. In this process, some of you will qualify for CPE credit. So just hold on 1 minute. Like I said, we have a few more people coming in and we will get started in just a minute. I really recommend right now, though, grab yourself a notebook, grab yourself a pen, because you're going to want to take some notes, especially at the end where we have a special treat for you. Okay, Mike, it looks like we are right at the top of the hour. So we'll go ahead and get started. Once again, welcome everyone. You are in the Taking Budgeting and Planning Tools to the Ring, where we're going to have a comparison between Anaplan and IBM Planning Analytics with Watson. Now, who is this webinar for? Currently, right now, you should be seeing my screen, and this is for anyone that is looking for a better way for doing your budgeting, planning, and forecasting modeling. Now, if you've ever been, especially if you use Excel today, we love Excel, but we hate Excel. We have one of those moments where we're like, there has to be a better way. Well, if you've ever thought that, then you are in the right place. This is also for anyone that knows that flexibility in modeling can change the business and is essential for success, because I think we can agree to one thing. The world is changing. Like right now with tariffs and taxes and layoffs and all this craziness happening, that we need to get better ability to be more agile in our planning. And if you want to improve the flexibility of your planning tools today, then this is the great place for you to be, because this comparison is going to be comparing two heavyweight planning tools and showing you some of the comparisons and some of the similarities as well. Now, for some of you, you're here because you want CPE credits. So all of you CPAs, I honor you, I get you, and I know you need credits. For those of you who don't know me, again, I'm Heather Cole with Lodestar Solutions. I am a certified executive coach. So in addition to running Lodestar Solutions, I have a separate company that does executive coaching for CFOs. And right now, this very moment, CFOs and financial executives are really faced with a lot of things going on. And it is kind of like climbing an ice mountain, right? Where at any time things could just come falling down on you. So I thought before we hop into the comparisons, let's first talk about what executives are facing, because guys, this is your unique opportunity right now. Is this while the world is in chaos and craziness, this is your opportunity to shine. This is your moment. But we first got to understand the people we serve, the executives that we serve, what they're faced with, so we can better serve them. The first thing is economic uncertainty is everywhere right now. The CFOs I coach, they're they're kind of hunkering down. You know what I mean? They're like, whoa, crazy stuff. We have no idea what's going to happen. We don't know, around the world who our friends or our foes are. We're just so much uncertainty. And here's what happens. In times of uncertainty, people that are in the FP&A space thrive, because that's what we deliver. Our planning models can deliver certainty. The other thing they're looking for is strategic alignment, and being able to model that. Resource allocation. How do we figure out what resources we have? Because everyone's hunkering down, as we call it, winter, right? They don't want to spend a lot of money on a lot of tools. But here's one thing they will spend money on. I guarantee, if you as an FP&A professional can show that you can bring certainty to the mix, that is something they will not just invest in, they will double down on. especially when you can get it all the way to helping them understand their cash flow. They're going to invest, they're faced with uncertainty around performance management. How do we really model that? Risk management. And of course, the number one area everyone is doing right now is cutting funds. And so you, my friends, are in just this amazing opportunity to stand out. I hope you realize that when the economy and everything goes crazy, you can shine. Like, you can get promoted, you can get raises. This is your opportunity to deliver visibility and certainty to the organization. Now, today, Mike Bernace is with us today. Mike is our service manager here at Lodestar Solutions, and he's going to be sharing with you some of kind of more of the IBM planning stuff. I'll be kind of sharing a lot more of what we've done as far as research around the Anaplan stuff. And here's the thing. We at Lodestar Solutions have been implementing the planning solution for over 20 years. I'm going to just be honest with you, going to be very frank. We are not the total experts in Anaplan. I'll just call it out. We've done our research though, because we weren't seeing a lot of people doing these comparisons and starting to ask the questions. Here's the other thing that's important to know. This area is changing so rapidly. Both IBM and Anaplan are having new releases like every quarter, new functionality, new licensing models. Everything is changing. So although we're going to provide you the information that we discovered in our research and what we know about planning analytics, we really encourage you always to defer to the vendors, the people that you're working with, and ask them, because this information, as soon as we give it to you, is going to be outdated. It's kind of like your budget, isn't it? As soon as it gets approved, poof, it's gone, it's outdated. So that's my kind of disclaimer to you today. Now, let's just hop off right into our first polling question. Again, you're going to need to answer 3 out of the 4 polling questions. Our first polling question for you today is, what is your primary planning tool today? If you guys just can type in there a short answer, like, is it Excel? Is it IBM Planning Analytics? Is it Anaplan? Is it, whatever your tool is, just go ahead and put some answers in there. Again, you'll need to do this for your CP credits. We'll leave this open for a little bit longer. And here's the thing that we're seeing is every client, no matter what tool they have, they also have Excel, right? We will never get rid of Excel. We love it. It's our love-hate relationship with it. And so we want to make sure that technology allows us to continue to use that. So we'll talk about that today, that actually both technologies can be used with Excel. They do it a little bit differently, but yes, that is. So we're going to leave this poll open for another 5 seconds. Remember, you need CPE credits. You got to type in a little answer and submit it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close our poll now. So if you haven't gotten your answers, we will have to make sure you get the next ones. Okay. So bear with me, get my screen back here. A little history lesson. Now, I think that when we go to compare Anaplan and Planning Analytics, we need to go back in history and look at what was the evolution of these products. And so I think we're going to take a little time capsule back to 1990. 1990 was when Guy Hattleton committed to solving a problem with spreadsheets, and he started a company called Datum. And we had Datum people out there. Where are my peeps, right? I did, full disclosure. There's Chris. Hey. So I worked with it at a Datum years and years ago, and it was a great tool for its day. And back in 2003, a Datum was sold to Cognos/IBM. So, and it was what we called enterprise planning. Now, IBM also purchased another company. A lot of you Applix people out there, maybe some of you are like me, where you kind of both. So IBM also bought a company called Applix, and they kind of infused these technologies together. And that's where we are today with IBM Planning Analytics. Now, in 2006, Guy and Sue Hattleton, then with Michael Gould, started out Anaplan. So you can see the roots, the kind of grandparents of both Anaplan and Planning Analytics are the foundation of that is a data. So what you're going to see today is that there's a lot of similarities. And that's where a lot of people are like, oh, which one? And we're going to, today, what we want to do is kind of address, yes, there are similarities, but then get down to where they differ and how you as an end user can kind of explore what's the best fit for you. So as I said, both of these are formidable competitors. They both use an in-memory database technology, right? What does that mean? It's going to do calculations faster. It's going to be more scalable. They both have user-friendly interfaces. We will talk about some of the differences in the interfaces. They both have the ability to integrate with data, and both companies are heavily investing in AI integrations and results, as is everyone in the industry, right? What I love about both of these technologies is they are designed to extend beyond finance and people. If you are not extending beyond finance today, what are you doing? This is your opportunity to shine and be seen as a leader in your organization. I don't know about you, but I always like to share my opinions to make an impact. And these tools allow you to do that. And then they both have reporting capabilities. There's some pros and cons to each one that we will talk about as well. So what are we going to judge this by? We're going to judge the rounds by scalability and performance. We're going to look at the flexibility of the different tools, some user experience, deployment options, and integrations, because the deployment options are very different in the two technologies, and the integrations are kind of pretty different too. We'll talk about the AI innovations and what we're seeing coming out of these tools, which is super exciting. And then finally, we're going to get to cost, where I'll throw a disclaimer as cost is always changing and everything is negotiable. Okay, so now that we're into that, let's do one more quick poll. Remember, you need these for CPE credits. Our next poll question is, how often do you modify your planning models? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? Semi-annually? Yearly? Every 2 years? Or it's been a long time? Okay, we see some results are coming in. We will leave this poll open for another like 40 seconds as you guys are answering these questions. And what we find is when COVID hit, what happened? Everyone had this, oh, beep moment, right? We're like, wait, what's happening? And so I think that was like a catalyst for many organizations to say, we need a COVID plan. And so a lot of our clients came to us and said, hey, we're going to completely redesign. We need to look at things differently. Now, here's what happens when the world completely changes, is that we have to be forced to look at those changes and say, how will they impact my organization? And oftentimes that means we need to look at our models and say, what are we missing? Like, I don't know about you. I wasn't expecting tariffs of 25%. A lot of you probably don't have models that include, like massive tariffs, and how will that ripple through? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to close our poll here. So hopefully everyone answered. And it looks like our polling, gosh, we're really kind of divided. So we have about 25% of you saying monthly, which I love, 25% saying quarterly. We got about 8% saying yearly. And those of you 42%ers, it's been a long time. So this is, again, your opportunity to shine. So let's talk flexibility. Now, when we look at Anaplan and Planning Analytics, what we find is, I'm going to just be candid, they're very similar in flexibility. Again, they do things differently. If you are currently an Excel user and you're like, I don't even know if I need a better tool, I'm going to tell you yes, you do, right? But what happens in these tools, and the screenshot we have here is a component of Planning Analytics. What all of these technologies do, and again, they came from the foundation of Atatum very well, is be able to model some things like, in Planning Analytics, we can say increase 10% and spread it across the months, and it very quickly does it. We can do this thing called breakback, where we put in a total and it will spread it across all those months, or in proportionality. So all of that is like, you can't really do it in Excel, but these advanced tools give you those superpowers. And so coming out of the gate, we're going to say that there's very much similarities in the flexibility. Where there's some uniquenesses is based on our research is that Anaplan, the syntax to write some of your rules and formulas is slightly simpler. Okay, so coming out of the box, you're going to be able to learn that probably a little faster. The challenge is that once you come out of the box and you start wanting to do more complex things, then it starts that planning analytics is better for those really complex calculations. And I always say it's kind of like an investment in anything. Once you learn it, it's not hard. But that's kind of where we're seeing the differences. The other difference we see, and I think this is something that I love about planning analytics, and this actually came from the older datum days as well, but it's my understanding that Anaplan does not do this as well, is what we call the slice and dice. So literally, if you can see this image I have here, what I can do with planning analytics is I can grab the scenario dimension of budget and actual, and I can slide it right next to my months. And now I can have a nested dimension of January budget actual, February budget actual. And so an end user can literally see things, how their brain works, because our brains don't all work the same. And so the end users want to be able to see things a little bit differently. So I'm going to say that on the flexibility round, I'm going to say it's pretty much an even. I'm just going to give planning analytics a little bit of a nudge for its ability to do that slice and dice, to be able to see the flexibility. Now we're going to go into the next round is going to be end user experience. I'm going to pass this over to Mike.
Hey everyone, Mike Bernache here. So happy to be with you and talk to you guys about planning analytics and Anaplan and kind of debate Heather a little bit and go through some of this stuff. So very, very excited. And Heather, if you want to just kind of populate as I go along here. So on the end user side for planning analytics, right? We all love Excel, as Heather said before, but we also all hate Excel sometimes. And with planning analytics, if you love Excel, you can stay in Excel. You can input data and pass it back to your models. You can slice and dice. You can create very, very formatted end user reporting, and everything in between in Excel. You could even take it and publish your Excel out to the web and utilize that interface to actually work in Excel, but go through a web. So very, very powerful from a planning analytics side. Next one, Heather. And then there's also another component called workspace. So yes, it can get confusing, right? Two places to go. And that's something we always hear. But the reason for that is because it's an Excel world. And many people just understand Excel and that's where they want to be, but you still get the power of the planning analytic calculation engine and the in-memory technology. But in Workspace, you can do modeling and dashboards and analysis and data entry. So if that's your cup of tea, you stay there, right? And you don't need to be anywhere. It's very, very powerful, being improved monthly, really. And then lastly, they have a built-in Learn panel, which I don't know, raise your hand if you remember the old Red Books from the Cognos and TM1 days, where you would download these huge PDFs and you would have this immense area to try and figure something out in. What IBM has done, which is really, really excellent, is they've basically built in Google, for lack of a better word, inside of the product. So you simply click a button, you type in what you're looking for. It has autofill, so it's smart enough to recognize certain things. It gives suggestions, and you're off and running with videos and blogs and web pages and things like that to help you really do anything you need to do inside of planning analytics, along with a huge support and IBM community. Then on the Anaplan side, as Heather mentioned earlier, they do have a very simple and easy to use web interface. From a flexibility standpoint, it probably is a little easier to get started in Anaplan, but there's really, once you're in planning analytics, I think the end user experience probably becomes a draw, to be honest with you. They both have charts, they both have graphs, they're both offer reporting, right? And then they also have some online downloadable guides. So that might be a bit of an advantage to IBM with their Learn panel, but both products are going to give the end users, really everything they need to do in a planning tool.
Mike, are you calling this one a draw?
I'm calling it a draw. I think
Okay.
all three judges scored it a 92 across all the rounds. Yep.
I would agree. Once you're into the models, the user experiences, honestly, they're both great.
Yeah.
Like if you're in Excel today, like it's time to step up and get some tools, and we'll talk again more of that on the end. Okay, we are into the data and scalability rounds. And so, Mike, I'm going to let you lead this one off.
Yeah. So with IBM Planning Analytics, it's really designed for sparse data. And that's not to get too technical, but there may be some of you who want to know why. Like, oh, you just told me this, but I don't know why. Because IBM only stores zero data, right? And it only calculates dynamically.
It only stores non-zero data.
Non-zero data, sorry.
It wouldn't be much use if it only stored zero.
Not zero data. Scratch that. Non-zero data. And it only calculates, this data dynamically when needed. And then there's some advanced compression technology that's built into the back end. Now we're getting really geeky on you, but that's why it's really designed with the engine for sparse data and really, really large, data volumes. And it's very, very flexible in terms of you're building customized models. IBM does offer a few pre-built models, but you're not limited by size or constraints on what is built. It's really a blank canvas for you. So as Heather mentioned earlier, with extending beyond finance, right? You could do sales, your sales forecasting or marketing initiatives, project management, whatever it might be, is really can be done very, very easily and flexible inside of planning analytics.
Okay, from the Anaplan side, what we have is that the Anaplan's got a couple different options. And the way we see it, again, we're not the experts in Anaplan, but we've done our research, is that they have the classic engine. And the classic engine had some struggles. And what it struggled with is it would calculate everything. So it didn't handle those really, really big cube sizes very well because it had sometimes it would take a long time to calculate because it didn't handle the sparse data the same way that Planning Analytics with the TM1 engine does. So that problem has been addressed. And in 2022, Anaplan had released what we call the Polaris engine. Now, as I understand it, the Polaris engine was really designed to be able to address these very, very large models with sparse data. And the other thing that they do, and this is one thing that Anaplan does very well, is they have pre-built models, right? So you can have, these models that are pre-built that you can kind of modify to meet your business needs. Our understanding is in that pre-version 5, there was size limits on those models. Version 5 is when kind of the Polaris engine comes. We're going to talk about licensing and when that's the Polaris engine is really designed more for those bigger enterprise clients that are going to have those sparse data issues, right? And then as far as Mike, maybe you want to talk a little bit about the integration components around this?
Yeah, I think we cover that in another slide, but yeah, I think more scalability, right? Both tools offer scalability, right? Scale up, scale down. I think there are some catches on the Anaplan side in terms of the pre-built models and how you scale those up and how that works. IBM and the way the system and the licensing has always worked is you can scale as large as you want to get, which I think is a really big factor, especially if you want to extend past finance and really generate the ROI, right? I mean, we haven't even mentioned the word ROI, but that's a big one where you have this really powerful tool and you're siloing it to finance. Think bigger to what else you could do and then interconnect that to your finance, your income statement, your balance sheet or whatever from all these different areas in the company. And IBM has always been very, very good with the scalability on this tool for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, we are back into our next polling question. Okay, our next poll is, how are your strategic goals for the organization communicated to the organization? Now, one of the things that we'll talk about a little bit later, that regardless of what tool you use, the thing that we see that is missed the most in doing this for me over 25 years I've been in this space, is that our models are very accounting based.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to start to transition to be extend it beyond the world of finance, right? To go into marketing and to go into sales and HR. And when we start to do that, the way we can get the organization to be aligned with us is to make sure that we're all going in the same direction. Now, I speak at FEI conferences and big events, and I always ask the question, what percentage of you can clearly define the strategic goals of the company? And you'd be shocked to find out that less than 4% of the people, even of CFOs, answer this question. So we always ask, how are you communicating this? And remember, you will need to answer this to get your CPE credit. So make sure you guys are at least putting a little answer. And it could be we don't communicate those goals. And guess what? Then that is an opportunity for you to shine. I'm going to leave this poll open for another 7 seconds. So please submit your answers. And we are going to end this poll. Okay. Back here. Okay. Our next area is deployment and integrations. And this is where we start to see the divergent of these technologies, I think. So Mike, do you want to go ahead and share with us some things about the IBM stack here?
Yeah, so with IBM Planning Analytics, you have a number of options. You have the old-fashioned, good old reliable on-premise, right? Where you purchase the software as an asset, and you host it either on your VMs, or if anybody even has bare metal servers in their organization today, maybe there. Or you can take that on-premise software and host it in AWS or Azure or whatever cloud. Everybody's using clouds, right? So whatever you host it, but you're responsible for the upkeep. You have to do your upgrades and all that good stuff. And then IBM also offers a number of flavors of SaaS, right? They're all still software as a service, but they have PA on cloud, which is on the IBM cloud. And then recently, about a year and a half ago, IBM worked with AWS, and they actually offer planning analytics as a service on AWS. And then recently also offered that on Azure. So a number of different options. And one of the key here is that IBM offers a single tenant or a multi-tenant solution, depending on which way you want to go. And just so everybody understands what that means, multi-tenant means you're sharing your data is on a server with some other company or multiple, and you're sharing resources. They're still all secure, right? But you're also sharing that resource, and God forbid something were to happen. And then a single tenant obviously it's your server dedicated to you from a SaaS solution. So that's an important distinction, I think, on the IBM side, is that they offer a number of different ways to have the software. On the Anaplan side, and I'll just steal it from Heather since I'm rolling here, it's SaaS only, which is great. I mean, more and more people are going to SaaS solutions. I think they're wonderful. But Anaplans is only a multi-tenant solution. So you will be sharing resources and disk space, even if it's segregated with other clients. And then let's talk integrations a little bit. So with IBM, you have a number of built-in integrations. There's not a lot of them, but you can connect through what we call a TI process, Turbo Integrator. It's a lightweight ETL tool that ships with the product. And using an ODBC connection, you can connect to pretty much any data you need to on-prem. And then with the SaaS solution, they have what they call a satellite connector that allows you to talk to different clouds. So from an integration standpoint, IBM has, a few out of the box. They have an SAP connector. They have a couple others, but certainly not as fruitful as Anaplan. And maybe, Heather, you want to talk about that? And then we'll talk a little bit more about integrations.
Yeah, I think really what we're looking at here is I want to kind of back up a little bit, Mike. The multi-tenant option, for most of you, that's not going to be a big difference, right?
No,
Some
really
of you are in industries, however, that may or may not allow this, right? So I think that's important to talk about, right?
Thanks, Heather. Yeah.
As far as integrations go, though, Anaplan does have these great integrations where they have pre-built integrations that just like connect, which, I love that concept. However, there's also a lot more options where you're going to need third-party tools that you have to pay for to get some of those connections going, right? So I always look at connections one way though. So everyone's like, oh, all these connections. Like most of the time, guys, when you set up, let's say your Turbo integrator or your Anaplan connection, you're not changing it a lot, right? Like everyone always makes this big deal about the connectors, and yeah, they're a big deal initially, but once you get those connected, you have kind of like pipes feeding the data in. So I think on this one, I'm gonna say, Mike, that it's really dependent on your unique situation.
It is, and I'll just add, which this might sway, some people's thoughts one way or the other, but from what I understand, Anaplan's preferred method to bring in data is through a flat file. Now they have all these connectors. You can use different things. It's going to probably cost you to buy this connector or tool to bring data in. They do have a CloudWorks solution for SaaS. But their preferred method, from what I understand, is flat files. Now, IBM can also load flat files, and we have plenty of clients who do that. But with their built-in ETL tool, the connection to databases or ERPs or whatever it might be through an ODBC, definitely, IBM would prefer that, right? So there is a little bit of a difference there, but in the end, as Heather's saying, they both bring data in. It just depends on your situation and how you want to accomplish that.
But I think also we'll talk a little bit later about reporting, but I think it's also important to know that, like, let's be honest, besides modeling, which obviously we need the ability to enter data, but we also need to get the data out in a usable format that especially that executives love. And oftentimes with Anaplan, people are using the third-party integrations with something like Tableau or Power BI or some other tool to do some of that reporting.
And with planning analytics, right, I saw somebody write it, and I was just looking at my note actually, and IBM does support, right, REST APIs, which certainly can provide extensive control over different data integrations and automations and things like that, right?
Yeah. So, I'm going to go with this round. Kind of depends on your organization, because we probably have some enterprise huge companies on here, and then we have some smaller mid-market companies, and your goals and your needs are going to be very different. So I don't know, Mike, how are you voting this round?
I would say the same thing, right? As we started this, they're both good tools. They both do similar things. You're going to have a great opportunity to chat about your unique situations with us at the end of this, but that's really the key to this, right? And Heather's going to really dive into that in a little bit, but that's setting up that's the key to this whole thing. So let's just call it a potential draw depending on where you're at.
Yes. There was a question. I just want to make sure that slept on, and that I will address this. It was a question about, the classic engine and Polaris engine. And the question was basically, Polaris really solves that sparse data problem. But what you're having with Anaplan, and I apologize, I should have brought this up before, is that now you have two different engines going, right? And it's our understanding for some of you, although most of the functionality is available with the Polaris engine, it's not full, not everything. And this is common in technology, right? Where they come out with a new release and not all the feature functionalities have been there yet. So in this case, Polaris does not have all the feature functionality of the classic, and some people will have to rebuild their models to leverage the Polaris engine. And as we'll see when we get to licensing, Polaris is really designed for those bigger, candidly more expensive deployments, right?
Yep, that is true.
Let's get into AI. Now, this is an area, again, guys, this is changing so much that it's kind of like, you know, what we say right now is going to be outdated in an hour practically. But Anaplan does have some good AI in components that it has in it. They have Co-Planner, which is a collaboration in planning workflows, right? So this allows us to have version control, you know, multi-user workflows. For those of you that are old Datum people, think contributor, right? So some of this, the underlying belly of it has been around for many years, but the idea is to offer that collaborative process. In Anaplan, we know it's only cloud-based, so that's how it is, right? Now, they also have this component called Plan IQ. Now, I'm going to put the disclaimer out there. This is, you know, an AI machine learning forecasting engine. It integrates with Amazon Forecast to give its predictive analytics, but it's only really for what they call the advanced licensing model. Once again, those big enterprises, and this will be an additional cost, is our understanding for it, but it will really give you the predictive forecasting capabilities that Mike will talk about. Really, both tools can do this. It's how they do it and how much it costs you, right? The third component they have is a component called Optimizer. And Optimizer is for more advanced optimization algorithms. So it's really, I like to say, it kind of starts to recommend things, right? To not just forecast them, but like, hey, maybe this is the best route. When we talk about IBM, we're going to see that IBM does have a component that is actually a separate software called CFlex Optimization that does this. When would this be used? I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head. Let's say you were a freight company and you wanted to optimize routes that people would, you know, because of road construction, of all sorts of variables. That's where something like this would be useful. Now, this is included with Anaplan's advanced, like the enterprise type licensing model. And then finally, we have predictive insights. Now, predictive insights is, again, machine learning. And what it does is identify trends and patterns. And this particular component right now for Anaplan is available with their sales performance and marketing planning models. It's my understanding it's restricted to those two kind of modules at this time. Okay, so now let's talk about some AI innovation by IBM.
Yeah, so with IBM, there's a product called Planning Analytics Assistant. Full candor, it is an add-on license, just like things are for Anaplan. I don't want you to think that it just ships with the product. It's not, the cost is nominal, to be honest, but there is a cost to it. But this Planning Assistant has came out 6, 8, 10 months ago, and over the last few releases has really gained a ton of steam, in my opinion. Inside of the assistant, besides being able to type in certain things like load this model or create this calculation, it has a lot of cool AI built in now with natural language insights. So you can see the chart just below where it's going to take a chart and write out, you know, in English here, but I think there's a number of languages there and coming. The explanation of the chart, what's going on with each area, what the highest amount is, what the lowest amount is. And then you can take that further and start looking at outliers in your data where maybe you're putting together your forecast right and who's ever fat fingered something, who's ever missed a number, right? We've all done it. I can remember spending late nights trying to find it. With the outlier analysis, it will quickly analyze, you know, that particular line or a group of lines and show you what what really is the outlier so you can pinpoint, oh my gosh, I forgot a zero on the end of that and I was only putting $10,000 in for rent expense and it should have been 100. And who's ever made that mistake when they put the budget through, right? So a really great feature there. There's impact analysis, so what drives what, right? Which I think is really key. And then candidly, in the latest release, they have a what they call cell explanation, and this is extremely powerful in my opinion. So you can go in, click on the cell, and it will, with AI, it will explain what that cell is, but then you can actually dive into that and get an explanation on what the rule in PA language or calculation in other language, what that calculation is doing. So you can see here on the right, it goes through and it explains every line of that calculation. So let's say you just started, you inherited this model, you're trying to figure out a problem. What a great way to be able to dive into that rule without blowing it up on your screen in 50 font, working through it, trying to figure out what the rule's doing, right? So this is a great feature that just recently came out, which I can't wait to get in to start using because, trying to decipher someone else's calculation can be tough, right? Next slide, Heather. And then there's also AI forecasting built in, and the forecasting comes in three different pieces. There's a single variant, which is just taking the data and going through and looking at historical information and letting AI kind of generate what that forecast is. And you'll see in that chart everything in that kind of blue shaded area is a forecast, and that shade gives it some up and down, basically. It's giving you a range of the kind of the forecast. There's multivariate, so outside factors. Maybe you're very interest rate dependent or weather dependent or whatever it might be. You can add in a number of different variants to this forecast and let AI use all the variants to tighten that forecast even further, right? And then there's what we call a baseline forecast that really takes large group of data and sets that baseline for a budgeting and forecasting, exercise for your company across across the entire model, right? So it sets that baseline for you as a starting point for somebody to jump in and start modeling.
I think if we look at the AI, both companies are coming out with great stuff. The AI piece, I'm going to say, is ever changing. I do like that IBM is including the forecasting capabilities in with their kind of a little bit more higher product, their basic and their higher product. Like I said, this area, these companies are going to keep leapfrogging each other in AI for years to come. Mm-hmm. What you really need to understand is how you're going to use it. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yep. And obviously IBM is built off of Watson, right? Yeah. Everybody knows Watson. So just throwing that out there.
So now we get into licensing and cost, and this is where it gets really messy, right? So this, again, is changing. We have Anaplan that has clients on the older licensing model. It's our understanding they're doing a big push to get everyone onto what they call the V5 licensing. What happens when they move to the V5 licensing is a lot of things that were separate add-ons are now getting simplified. Again, we see this in the software industry all the time. They keep creating new products, they have add-ons, and then they go, this is messy. So they start to simplify, right? So that's where Anaplan is. They're simplifying their licensing. And so they kind of have three key areas. They have what's called essentials. With this is designed, as we understand it, only for smaller companies. I don't believe enterprise companies can go buy essentials today. And so it comes with their classic engine. It does not include Polaris, so you're not going to do huge models in it, right? And it has some basic functions, but you can't do the add-ons here. In order to do the add-ons, you need to move to their next level, which is their standard or mid-market and enterprise. This is a pretty good bundle. What I like about it, it has all the functionality and everything. It has workflow. It has a DocuSign integration, which I think is actually kind of a cool idea. I have not seen it actually in action, but if there's IBMers on this call, hey, that'd be pretty cool to have. And then they have they'd have one ADO package. As we understand, this is kind of like your connectors, right? And then the final kind of the big kahuna is the enterprise, or what they call advanced. Now, this includes Polaris. Now, again, it's remember, once you do this, now you almost have two different engines running. You have Classic, and then you have the Polaris engine. And you're going to have to kind of navigate those waters. Whereas in IBM, you have just the TM1 engine. So it also comes with Optimizer, and then here you have two ADO packages. As far as licensing goes and pricing, both companies have really, they'll always say they're going to be really competitive. It's changing all the time. And then, we'll have Mike go through it. What's interesting is these two companies actually price their stuff very similarly. Don't you think, Mike?
I think with some of the changes with Anaplan, they're starting packages with what you really need, because you may need two different engines because of sparse and non-sparse data. From what I understand, that cost has gone up quite a bit. And it was very similar to IBM until, IBM came out with the AWS and Azure licensing.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing. We'll go into the IBM licensing here. So we talked earlier that IBM has, on-prem, they have cloud, they have all these different options, right? Today, from talking about licensing, we wanted to kind of be able to more compare apples to apples, right? Yes. So we're not talking about on-prem pricing. If you guys are interested in that, we're happy to have offline discussions. But where we see people going is really moving to SaaS, right? Let's be honest, we don't want to rely on IT for upgrades, right? Like we have enough battles getting data from them sometimes. So Mike, why don't you walk us through, and guys, notice even how similar some of this is named, right? Essential, standard. It's like they're having like the bat phone and telling each other what to name these, right?
Yeah. So IBM has three t-shirt sizes, right? Essentials is really for that smaller deployment. Think I've got 2 or 3 people. We're doing our budget in Excel, and we just want a little bit, a better way to do this, right? For a low entry point, you can either choose Workspace, which is that web version, or Excel, and it includes 5 users. We don't really recommend that, but if it's just a 1 or 2 person shop and they just really want a more connected way to do it, it's a great tool, and it's really not going to cost you a lot, right? But you're limited in how much memory you get and how much disk, you're limited because it's the entry level. The standard is where we really start, and that still is a very good entry point. It includes 10 users. You get both Workspace, Excel, as Heather mentioned earlier, forecasting. You actually do get a pre-built app. So there's 4 of them that IBM offer, which is your FP&A model, your advanced workforce, your project management, and your expense planning. Is it expense planning? Yeah, I believe that's it. So you get all that, you get more memory, and then you go into the premium, which, quoting that is a little bit different. And we always just say, let's talk to us. But it's really, in a comparative way, it's not, it's not crazy. It includes, again, Workspace, Excel forecasting. You get the regular and the large scale baseline forecasting. It includes 20 users. You still get the app. So, the t-shirt sizes are similar. Obviously, standard premium, you get a ton more. And I want to be cognizant of time. So next slide.
Yeah, I think it's also important that when you get prices, guys, ask them to price it out 3-4 years. Don't just get your first year cost, because they'll play games. Like all companies play shell games, right? Ask for 3 years out. But yeah, Mike, here, this is where it gets interesting, though.
Yeah, so IBM has become very aggressive in going against the competition, and they have a program now where you can get up to 65% off on the standard or premium option. So for that server, that includes either 10 or 20 users. Any add-on users for the first year are free. I'm gonna say it again, they're free. And then years 2 and 3 can be up to a 50% discount. And you could actually take that to years 4 and 5 if you commit to that. But the catch is you do have to commit for 3 years. And there's no uplift during that. So if you signed a 5-year contract, you don't get an uplift, which is a standard thing in the industry. The standard uplift would start happening on years, maybe 4, 5, 6, whatever it might be, whatever your contract is. And this is limited time. So, IBM is being very aggressive to move to their product over on AWS or Azure. So it's definitely something to consider if price is your determining factor.
Well, and if you have a model redesign, like maybe you have, issues, you're going to be moving to Polaris, you got to redesign your models anyway. Maybe it's an opportunity to go look at, is there a way to mitigate some costs? Because as we said earlier, that's a key, right?
Yeah.
So at Lodestar Solutions, we are a boutique reseller and implementer of planning solutions, right? We can choose any software to represent and service. We choose to partner with IBM Planning Analytics. And we're going to give you why we chose it and why it's right for us, to show that maybe it's right for you too. So the first thing is cost. We love that when they moved to AWS, I'll be honest, the cloud used to be expensive and we didn't recommend it for years. And then all of a sudden they have AWS, they have it on Azure, they got the pricing aligned. And we were like, whoa, clients can really get into this affordably. So that's a huge plus for us. We love that IBM has a mid-market focus, and they do that through partners like us. What we're hearing rumblings in the industry is that Anaplan, since they've been kind of brought back private, that they're really looking to increase profit margin, and therefore are really going to focus on those big enterprise accounts. The deployment options. We love the flexibility because not every client wants to go to the cloud. So we love that IBM has these options. And by the way, if you started on-prem and you wanted to move those to the cloud, those models move very quickly and very easily. It is not a rebuild. We love the analysis and reporting and flexibility. I think Chris had put in chat that the Excel add-in in Anaplan. By the way, we did not ask Chris to do that. He just said it sucked. So, and he is someone that knows both. But so we love the fact that the workspace provides some great, dashboard capabilities, and we have Excel, and it just really fits for our client base. And then finally, IBM has made a large investment in new functionality and infusing AI. And we love knowing that there's a path. What IBM has not done, I'm going to just call it out. I think there's IBMers on this. I'll get hand slapped later. IBM has done a horrible job of marketing this product. I always tell people IBM Planning Analytics is the best product nobody knows about. So guys, don't hold it against them. Look for the best tool for you. Here's the bottom line, guys. This is it. This is the news flash. Get your pens out. The tools don't really matter. I'm just going to call it out. I've been doing this for a very long time. So I want to challenge you today to rethink the way you approach planning. Have you ever considered that it's not about the tools we use or the models that we build, but you know what it's about? It's about the questions that we ask. The power of asking the right questions cannot be overstated. So our questions are really the keys to unlocking all the hidden, messiness, the driving innovation, and aligning our organization to those strategic goals. What would happen if we could think about how we ask questions and maybe ask them a little bit differently? Consider this. 70% of executives believe that asking strategic questions is crucial for driving the business growth. And yet, oftentimes when we go to ask the end users what they want, we just ask these surface questions and get surface answers. We don't have the courage to step up and ask the probing questions, the ones that make everyone a little nervous. How often do we fail to challenge these assumptions that we've built in our models years ago and push that boundaries of what's possible? For those of us in FP&A, I think it's our role to not just crunch the numbers and build models, ask those questions. I love this old quote from Thomas Watson, of course, IBM. The ability to ask right questions is more than half the battle of finding the right answers. So I really want us to think different. So I want to give you some power questions here. Okay. What if the true value lies not in our ability to model, but ask those questions? Questions like, what are the underlying assumptions driving our forecast? Or how can we better align our financial goals with our strategic vision? Maybe what are the risks we are not seeing and how can we mitigate them? By the way, this one should be highlighted based on today's world, right? But by asking these power questions, we can create models that not only like are aligned with the strategy, but help us align across the functionalities. So many organizations have they operate almost as like disconnected business units instead of a seamless unit. If we are to ensure that every decision we make is informed by deep understanding, how much more effective would we be if we could just ask better questions? Like to have that courage, because in the end, it's not the answers that define us, it's the questions that we have the courage to ask. So one more question there is what is what is changing in the world that we need to incorporate in our models? But guys, take a screenshot of this, right? The other thing that we know is the power of why. So as an executive coach and business advisor to CFOs, there's one thing that I focus on in every client, and this is like their aha moment, like whoa type of moment, right? And that is sharing the power of why. People will follow you if they understand why you are doing something. So as an FP&A professional, maybe you're going out and asking marketing, like, what do you need? And they're kind of stonewalling you. They're ignoring you. They're not taking meetings. What we need to do is we need to learn to ask the questions and explain to them why we're doing something and how it benefits them. So people will also review valuable information when we just ask why. So we got to learn how to do this better. I do have one quick polling question that we got to get in here. So I'm going to go ahead and add that polling question. This is the fourth and final polling question for CPE credits. How do we rate your ability to confidently ask power questions? Go ahead and put your answers in there, guys. This will give you your CPE credits. And we're getting some answers in. I didn't realize I was supposed to ask questions. By the way, as consultants, sometimes we have this expert curse. We think we should know everything. We think that people hire us because we know everything. Here's the reality, people. Like the more you shut up and you ask a question, you let them talk, the more brilliant you look. So let's go ahead. We'll give you another 30 seconds on this answer. It says, I didn't realize I was supposed to ask questions. I need to work on this. I'm okay, but room for improvement. I excel at asking power questions. By the way, power questions is a muscle. It's something we have to train ourselves to do better. And to do, like the first time you learn to do this, guys, it's awkward. I'll just admit it. The first time I asked like this big probing question, I thought they were going to be like, who do you think you are? My imposter syndrome started raging. And then I got comfortable with it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close down this poll. You have a couple more seconds here. If you have not answered this, please do so. And it looks like the majority of people say, I'm okay, but room for improvement. We got a couple people that said, I need to work on this. So good on you guys. I love that you're admitting you need room for improvement because that's the first way we get better. So we gave you a lot of knowledge today. And how many of you have heard the expression knowledge is power? We've heard that, right? By the way, that's BS. Knowledge is not power. Do you know what power is? Taking action, taking that next step and doing something with the information that you learned. So our challenge to you today is a couple of things. What we're going to be doing is we're going to help people with these power questions. Now, we'd love to talk to you. If you are someone that is like, hey, I think there's room for improvement in asking our questions, or I want to learn more about planning analytics. And honestly, even if you want to know more about Anaplan, we have other friends that do that. But we want to help you guys. We want to help you level up and step into that spotlight that is shining on FP&A right now and really embrace it and kind of ride that opportunity of uncertainty. So do me a favor right now. If you're interested or slightly curious to find out how you ask better questions, regardless of the tools you use today, grab your phone, pull up the camera, scan this QR code. What this will do is this will take you to my personal calendar and you'll be able to set up a 20-minute next step strategy call. And we're just going to talk about your unique situation, maybe where you're like, ooh, I can't get this person to share ideas. I will share with you tons of experience on how we can help you level up. So do this right now. Go ahead, scan it. You'll want to set that up. Just making sure we covered all the chat questions there. I think we have, Mike. So please book this. We will send this link. If you're like, oh, I don't have my phone, we will send the link to this out to everyone that is here today so that you can get that on your calendar. Well, thank you, everyone. Everyone have an extraordinary day. Let us know if we have questions. And if you're an Anaplan person and you're like, wait, you missed this, you didn't say, we want to know, because we are here to provide information and help you guys make the right choice. We'll see you on our next webinar. We have other CPE credit ones coming. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.